Get Rich Slow with John Wolfe. Hey, today I'm going to talk about quotes and advertisements that I think are downright fraudulent or intentionally deceptive, and just the really dumb, kind of terrible trickery that makes my industry look awful that I'm just totally not about. Again, I've said it a few times. The reason I try to really educate people about financing and my industry is I worked really hard. I really do feel like 9 out of 10 people in the Portland area, I would be the very best possible lender for them. And so if the more I can show you, the more you can know that, the more likely my business is to grow. But anyways, first I want to dive into a quote I received a while ago from a real estate agent that was considering refinancing. And the company put kind of a disclaimer on the top of this, but if your disclaimer really leads the rest of the document to be an absolute lie or fraud without the disclaimer, I would just call that fraud. But hey, I'm not a lawyer. So this is a real quote that this person received. It has the date on it and everything. Feel free to use it. Chad, shame on you. Really? And I believe this is Key Bank, and shame on you, really. So how do I know that this is a super misleading, if not completely fraudulent quote? I'm like, well, I know that because of what it lists out for the closing costs. So, you know, I'm not going to pick on them for what the interest rate is or what the loan amount is, because frankly, maybe they do that interest rate. Or we're doing it at the time. I don't know. And a few of these things are just fine. So I'm going to run down the list of fees and comment on it. And then I'm going to tell you why I know that this is a BS quote and that they are trying to trap the person into starting a transaction with them. It's called bubbling in sales. If someone's going to leave anyways, you give them a transaction that's so good no one can match it, so they have to come back to you. And when you do, you pull the rug out from under them anyways. But you're just hoping they're so exhausted or have gotten far enough into the process that they just eat the worst terms you give them on the second go. So anyways, they show tiny amount of loan points. $220 or $123, no problem. Processing fee, $195. That's actually slightly less than average, no problem. Appraisal fee, $98. That's really high, at least it was then. Credit report, $17. That's cheap. Flood cert, $7. That's about right. MERS, $11. I think Calibre used to charge $12. Tax services, $85. It's pretty average. Here's where we get into trouble. Title services service fee, $500, and then it has a hazard insurance estimate, $800. That doesn't need to be right, but $800 is a pretty fair estimate. And then per day interest. And then as you look down, they talk about the proposed payment, county and property taxes. They put in there, but they don't put in the line above it, I think on purpose, and that's them being really squirrely. I wouldn't call that fraudulent. But they have their let's see, actually, did they calculate it right? So we got the loan summary. So let's look at that. So they're talking about estimated prepaid items. Now that's supposed to be the taxes and the homeowner's insurance. But wait, they have that amount as $1,200 something when that doesn't really make sense because they have $800 in prepaid hazard insurance, and they have county property tax. Oh man, they only show the monthly for the county property tax. Well, gosh, if the monthly property tax is $510, that means for a full year's property tax, they need to collect $6,000, which actually means for this refinance, let me see, when did they quoted this in June, July, August is probably, let's say it gets done in August, September, October. By October, they need to have about 15 months in there. And they close in August, they're only going to make one payment. So they're missing way over $6,000 of known prepaid expenses. Wow. I don't think that total cost is $4,000 if you forgot $6,000. And then there's another, and I think kind of worse glaring, because there's sort of two buckets of expenses for the home loan. There's the fees and costs and prices of everything you're doing for the home loan itself. And then there's prepaid items or escrowed items. So, hey, they forgot to tell you they were going to take $6,000 in taxes, but, bygones be bygones. You already agreed to pay that $6,000. That was already part of your world. They just messed up on the paperwork, John. Why are you going so hard on them? Well, it's this other piece, and it's in the, that hard cost of doing it, the loan itself section. They have title settlement fees, $500. This varies by area and loan amount and property type and all that good stuff, but title fees in the Portland Metro in general come in a bit under $2,000, generally speaking. There is no way that the title fee is $500. So I'm not going to be generous with them with this one. So let's say that their actual hard costs for the lender for doing the refinance and the services you have to look for, it's not really the $2,700 that they say it is. It's almost, let's just call it, it's probably more like, it's probably like $1,500, $1,200 more. Let's call it $1,500. It's actually, that would make it, I should never do live math, but that would make it closer to, what would that be, like 4,300, not 2,700. And then they got the estimated prepaids wrong by, if you want to be really generous with them, $6,000, but if you want to be more truthful, it's $7,000. So this quote, if we're not being too generous with them, is dishonest by $8,500. And they say the quote is $4,000 for the costs, but I know, and after they get this client wrapped in their tentacles to the point where they think they can't escape, or they just think they can trick them, like buffalo them into something, they're going to pop them with the fact like, yeah, I know we said like $4,000, but it's really closer to 12. I hope that's not a problem. No, I mean, to me, that is a giant problem. When you do quotes like this, what I do, and it's kind of hard and I'm moving between companies, but I always overestimate every known fee possible, unless I know I can get the exact number. And sometimes the companies want you to estimate it by a lot. But if I would have quoted this lady basically the same quote, but I just generated it through my process, the total cost, it would have said $12,000-ish, because that's the truth. It wouldn't have said $4,000. So I know at the top of this page, it says your actual rate and payment and cost could be higher. Get an official loan estimate from our loan officer, but this page itself, it has a date, the bank's number, Chad Burns, his federal license number, his phone number, a date on it. I mean, as a client, as just a normal person, would you expect that when they say you can have this interest rate for $4,000, that it's going to be close or way the hell off? And it's probably way further off than he shows here, because I don't feel right about those rates and points. But even besides that, seriously, the costs are going to be 3 times more than this guy quoted about. And that is the kind of BS that gives this industry a bad name. Another piece, something that that I used to see online all the time, and I wonder if this got cleaned up, because I actually just went looking for this as I was getting ready for this video, was I used to see like mortgage interest rate ads where the interest rate seemed super low, but it had interest rate and APR, and they were the same number. And APR is basically an expression of how you would calculate the interest rate if you added in all those hard loan costs to all the interest and then kind of express that as a percentage. That's the short explanation of what APR is. But just because of that, like if a loan is 2.5%, the AP and there are zero fees, the APR will be like, I'm making up a number, but it'll be like 2.55 because the you paying the interest itself is actually a slightly higher number than the interest rate number because the interest rate number is amortized monthly, and you're calculating the same thing looking back 5 years as one lump. So anyways, here is another, this is still going on, super deceptive. I made a video a while ago about like how the math of this works and how I set up a series of these to just demonstrate it. But the consumer, the public, has had their just brain bashed in general that either interest rates are the most important thing or APR is the most important thing. And unfortunately, that is really not the case. I mean, if what I'm doing to try to make a loan for somebody is do the best I can for them and to serve them, it might surprise you, but interest rate and APR are not the most important factors, especially like not on their own. I'm like not saying they're not factors, but they're not the most important. And so here, I just want to show you, I snipped this a while ago. It looks like it was January 20th because I just saw it of this year at a minute before 1 p.m. Pacific time. And I left the whole screen up so you can see I'm like not manipulating anything. And I left Caliber. So, hey, Caliber, you can't say anything about me saying you're doing deceptive things. And this is deceptive. This isn't fraudulent. This isn't evil, but it's just not cool. So what you see here is they have a loan in my city, $300,000, 20% down, 740 plus credit. And they show it at APR 2.487, 2.455, and a couple more, and then all the way up to 2.813. And the monthly payments go down with the lower APR, but the fees go up. I don't think these fees actually math out, but they probably do somehow. It's just the pricing that I had available to me and could look up from Caliber was not this good. And I worked there. But if you wanted to do an interest rate of 2.875, the fees were way more than $664. If they said that was the points, maybe, but like I discussed from that like really fraudulent quote, there are hard costs that do get counted in the APR. The insurance and the taxes don't. But the hard cost for a refi before you start talking about points, it's basically a minimum of $3,000 and usually less than $4,000, unless it's an investment property or something else is going on. But it's basically always $3,000 to $4,000 here in the Portland metro area. And the deviance, the difference between the $3,000 and the $4,000, just so you know, in most cases is if we don't have to do an appraisal, then it's probably going to be a little over $3,000. And if we do have to do an appraisal, it's probably going to be a little bit less than $4,000. So that's actually where the difference comes from, just generally speaking. But it's not $600. Like, that's not close. I can't get you there directly through the real fees. I mean, if you want to do a refinance or a purchase or whatever, you can knowingly take a higher interest rate. I can pay you a lender credit, and we can get that number to really, well, almost anything. I mean, there are some limits. But anyways, this stuff does make me mad. I don't know if you can tell, but super, quotes that I like. Honestly, if Keybake wants to come over here and explain why that's not fraudulent, be my guest. And if, Caliber wants to come over here and describe how that's not super deceptive or why that math is right, I would love to record that video. So anyways, if you like what you saw here, smash that like button, share it with friends and family. Have an awesome day. Bye.